All right, good day and welcome everybody to this YouTube page. Theory courses. A lot of students have expressed issues regarding how they can write properly, how they can answer properly. That's because they feel there's something wrong in the way they communicate information. Some students even have issues with reading and understanding. Some have issues with preparation. And so I want to address these issues: how to read, how to understand, and how to deliver accordingly if you've not been passing, especially if you saw your CAs, your CA results, and that's the good of releasing it. Because if you saw it and it was not good, then you have an opportunity. That opportunity is only maximized when you know what to do this time. And that's the essence of this video. So this is Mr. Shalom telling you some breakdowns and some tips. All right, so if you don't have your notes pad yet, you want to take your writing materials and write, because I'll be getting down to it. I don't want this video to be long. Are you ready? All right, so we'll try to put some of those tips on the screen, but I can't put everything out on the screen, so you're listening so that you can learn what I have to say. All right, so the first one here, I have a Shalominator protocol for this, and I came up with something which I always say in class, but then I'll give it out to you in a nutshell. So there are steps, okay? A typical physiology question, theory question in this context now, requires that, first of all, you attempt to understand the direction the question is going to. Now, these are usually not premised on new discoveries in medicine. So what they're asking you is something that is very likely in Sembolingam, Guyton, or any of the textbooks. So there's this, okay? So it's not a new formulation, no matter how novel the question sounds. What they're expecting you to bring out is something that they have taught you or something that is in the textbook, all right? So this is what it looks like. First is an introduction. And I used to use that addendum for the song. First of all, what? Introduction. Okay, so first is introduction. Now, you want to have an introduction for every single topic that we have taught you. So let me give an example. Maybe we had a teaching on pineal gland, melatonin. This introduction is short. It's as short as maybe half a page. All right. So when I say short, I don't mean a few lines. You can decide that your introduction should be half a page. Half a page is a good preparation, so that if you do a little less than that or a little more, it can be fair as far as you end up answering the question.
We've been learning neuroendocrinology and through some of the revisions that we have already done, just for you to have a reminder as you revise. This semester, we've looked through various aspects, different lecturers taking different parts. One of the areas, satiety and appetite regulation. Don't forget, this course is neuroendocrinology, and that's a two-part thing, right? The neural pathways and how they interplay in regulating systemic functions, and the endocrine pathway being the hormones, the glands that secrete them, the parts of the brain that are involved too, as far as glands are concerned. Okay, so there is the brain and the central nervous system, and the way that interplays with glands and the secretions of hormones. Okay, so that's what neuroendocrinology is about in a nutshell. Now, to write an exam in this course is to be able to look through the systems of the body, the various functional systems, and the systems, right? Mr. Niger D and all that, right? So the various functional systems, for instance, something like nutrition or feeding, okay? Satiety and hunger, okay? What is the interplay? How does that come about? One of the most important things that I said a person should know is be able to introduce a subject matter. Okay, there is no topic that you have been taught that you should not be able to introduce. No topic that you should not be able to introduce. So I think that each and every one of you should have a standard introduction for each of those topics. So for instance, on hunger, satiety, you want to make sure that you can properly introduce it, properly structure it. I think I only taught about 2 or 3 of those topics, and looking through hunger, satiety is something you must understand in neuroendocrinology. How does the brain and the CNS interprets this? We give specific nucleus. This is not a lecture, so you want to look at it. Okay, we give the physiological anatomy of how hunger, satiety is interpreted, and so you want to start with the definitions, the descriptions, and the various parts that interplay with that. Okay, so that could be sufficient information for a half a pager or a page of introduction, introducing the subject matter, the neuroendocrinology of hunger and satiety. Okay, that's very important. So have a standard introduction, just in case you ever see something in that regard, in which case we must ask you questions on what we taught you, right? So these are the topics that we took. Okay, in addition, there are topics that someone like Dr. Richard would have taken in maybe growth metabolism, and functions of growth hormones. Okay, that's very important. There's no way that you're preparing for neuroendocrinology and you're not reading about that. And there are many other aspects too, but one cannot really fully predict. But it's important that all the key aspects are known by you. All right. So back to some of the things that we discussed in class. We talked about circadian rhythm as well. That is very important. There is no way you cannot know it in mastery. Again, first you start with an introduction before actually answering the question. Okay, so if there's any question related to circadian rhythm, you want to start by giving the physiological anatomy first a definition, okay, of how. Then you now go into the exact question. So if the exact question is, oh, how does this interplay with that, or something, whatever that is, you now use that as a kind of heading on its own. So your answers, I told you, must be structured. This is final year, and a lot of the reasons people underscore is that they cannot structure out their answers. Okay, so you structure that. So you have an introductory background, which you can do if you're really prepared for an exam in final year. It's important. Every topic you have an introduction, and after that you now go straight to the point. Okay. Some people like to put their introductions in the build-up of the actual question. It depends on how many marks the question is asking for. Okay, so if the question does not have much marks, maybe a five marks or a 3 marks question, you can submerge your introduction into the actual answer. All right, in the first paragraph. Okay, so that could take averagely maybe 6 or more lines. If you don't have a lot of information to say, give us the physiological anatomy. Tell us where. Tell us what is defined by, how that happens. If there are examples of it. Okay, what are the typical features of that thing? Okay, what is it and what are the features of it? Okay, that's very important. At least basic. Okay, then of course the anatomy must be there. You cannot separate introducing something without telling us where it is. And then there's importance in drawing. I gave you that rule, okay, and that's after you talk about, or when you start going into the body of the work, okay, in the body of what you're answering, you have to draw. It's very important. Whatever it is you're describing, especially this course, neuroendocrinology, is full of process flows. Okay, process flows. The glands that we're talking about have physical representations. They are located somewhere, okay, and some of them can actually be represented in drawings. So you can draw actual diagrams and you can draw schematics or systematic diagrams that show flows or how things are regulated. Anything that describes regulation of any kind, okay, can have. That means there's a way it curtails the excesses, there's a way it inhibits, and there's a way it stimulates, right? So all those things can show. Hormones that interplay can show. The nucleus involved can show, should show. Okay, so all these things are important. So mention main factors that play key roles. Okay, you mention them and discuss them. Okay, so it's a discussion. It's a good volume of discussion that you have to do in neuroendocrinology, and it's important that you know it. Okay, there are different circumstances that interrelate to circadian rhythm. It's a lot of things. Okay, or rather, it's a range of things. So put it together. The hormones that are essential. They are hormones that are key factors in circadian rhythm. You must know all of them and how they work. Okay, you must also know conditions associated with circadian rhythm. There are conditions, special conditions. So that's how to understand every topic. Okay, there are aspects you must know, clinical correlates as well. Okay, it's a good way to close your answering in medical sciences, especially something like physiology. Okay, because physiology is a normal now, so the deviation being the clinical correlates, you have to know that and be able to discuss a wide range of them. So apart from that, regular things I said, Mr. Niger, the different systems of the body, the heart, movement and all that, special senses, you have to know how the brain, the central nervous system and the hormones of the body interplay. What hormones are playing what roles and where are they regulated from? Okay, if these informations are harnessed together, you'd have a great representation. Okay, so don't forget, when answering a question, the volume of information you are going to put is also based on the marks that you are seeing, and I gave those keys in class when I described, so I will not necessarily go over that again, but what I've just given you is good information that helps you know how to answer exam questions. So make sure you are detailed. Make sure you don't need to be asked to draw a diagram before you draw an actual diagram. I told you it's very important in showing how you can understand in medical sciences, particularly physiology, where you have a topic or rather a course like neuroendocrinology is very, very important that you can represent your ideas with diagrams. So put your answers out rightly, and this is good information for you. All right, so that being said, expect other areas covered by other lecturers. God bless you. I wish you a wonderful one. Have a good exam and study well. Thank you.